In the summer of 2012, the world witnessed a murder unlike any other. A man named Luka Magnotta didn't just take a life. He broadcast his obsession for fame, cruelty, and attention across the internet. A student from China, Jun Lin, became the victim of a horrifying crime meticulously planned and executed, leaving authorities and online communities stunned. But to understand how such evil could unfold, we need to go back to the beginning. Born Eric Clinton Kirk Newman on July 24, 1982, in Scarborough, Ontario, Luka's early years were marked by instability. He moved frequently, his family life fragmented, and friends described him as both intelligent and socially awkward. Even as a teenager, he displayed a desire to stand out, not through normal achievements, but through shocking and attention-seeking behavior. By the time he reached high school, Luka had begun experimenting with different identities online, a precursor to the person he would later become. He was drawn to performance and fantasy, often creating elaborate stories about himself, some benign, others disturbing. Yet behind these personas lay a man struggling with deep-seated psychological issues, a man who craved recognition and notoriety at any cost. Asterisk. In his late teens and early 20s, Luka began to develop an obsession with fame. He would post videos of himself online, gradually escalating in audacity. He created multiple social media profiles under different names, some highlighting his modeling, some his acting ambitions, and some more unsettling, hinting at darker fantasies. Friends described him as charismatic but manipulative, a person who could charm while hiding a simmering instability. This obsession with attention was not merely a hobby, it was a compulsion. Reports suggest that Luka felt invisible unless he was the center of attention, and as he grew older, his methods of gaining notoriety became more extreme. Online communities noted his increasingly erratic behavior. He harassed others, posted threats, and became fascinated with the concept of murder and infamy. Sometime in the early 2000s, Eric Newman fully reinvented himself as Luka Magnotta. He embraced a new identity, one that combined performance, style, and shock value. Magnotta was no longer just a man seeking attention. He was a performer, a provocateur, and ultimately a predator. His online presence expanded. He posted videos of himself with exotic pets, uploaded modeling clips, and cultivated a following. But beneath the surface of harmless flamboyance, a darker persona lurked. Obsessions with murder, dominance, and control became evident. Observers would later describe this period as the foundation for the crimes to come, a dangerous mix of narcissism, fantasy, and an insatiable desire for recognition. Experts reviewing Luka's early life noted several red flags: manipulative tendencies, a need for attention at any cost, and escalating obsession with violent content. Teachers and acquaintances recalled his unpredictable moods and his fascination with the macabre. While many might have dismissed these behaviors as eccentricity, they were pieces of a puzzle that would later horrify the world. Luka's story is a chilling reminder. The signs of someone capable of extreme violence can hide behind charm, ambition, and a digital mask. His early life, seemingly ordinary at times, set the stage for one of Canada's most infamous crimes. From these early days of obsession and identity shifting, Luka would take a step that no one could have anticipated. His desire for attention, unchecked and growing, would culminate in a murder designed for infamy. Next, we examine the fateful encounter with Jun Lin, the victim who would tragically intersect with Luka's dark ambitions. By the late 2000s, Luka Magnotta's obsession with notoriety had begun to escalate. What started as harmless attention-seeking on social media evolved into something darker. He targeted individuals online, harassing them with threats and disturbing messages. His behavior became increasingly calculated, revealing a chilling desire to provoke fear and control others, a pattern that would soon culminate in murder. Luka's online persona was carefully curated. He adopted multiple identities, posting content that ranged from provocative modeling to increasingly alarming threats. Forums and online communities noted his escalating behavior, He would stalk, threaten, and manipulate individuals, often reveling in the panic his messages caused. He sent videos and letters that blurred the line between fantasy and reality. In one chilling incident, he mailed explicit threats to a fellow model, claiming he would harm her if she refused his advances. His need to dominate, intimidate, and remain visible online revealed a mind that craved recognition and was unafraid to terrify others to get it. Asterisk. As Luka's online presence grew, so did his fixation on death and murder. He collected and studied violent media, obsessively analyzing crime documentaries, videos, and real-life murders. Observers later described him as fascinated by the notoriety killers received, the attention, the headlines, the infamy. Luka's interactions with others often carried a subtle threat, a dark edge beneath the surface charm. While some dismissed him as eccentric or attention-seeking, those close to him sensed a growing intensity that was impossible to ignore. It was no longer just about being seen. It was about being feared, remembered, and immortalized. In 2010, Luka relocated from Toronto to Montreal. There, he sought to reinvent himself once again. He used his modeling persona as a cover, blending glamour with menace. But behind the scenes, his fascination with murder and control intensified. Police reports later revealed minor incidents of harassment and threats, which in hindsight foreshadowed the horrors to come. Neighbors and acquaintances recalled odd behavior, strangers arriving unexpectedly, disappearing for days, and a secretive lifestyle that left no trace. Magnotta's ability to blend charm with danger allowed him to evade suspicion, even as his mental state deteriorated. As 2012 approached, Luka began planning in earnest. His crimes would no longer be limited to online harassment or threats. He meticulously plotted a crime designed not only to kill, but to gain the worldwide attention he so desperately craved. He researched methods, practiced procedures in private, and documented aspects of his actions in ways that would later horrify investigators. The signs were present for anyone looking closely: obsession with media attention, fascination with gore, and an almost clinical approach to preparation. Yet, to the outside world, he remained a model, a performer, a man striving for fame, the perfect disguise for the monster he would become. Experts analyzing Luka's trajectory note that individuals who escalate from harassment to murder often display a combination of narcissism, obsessive behaviors, and a fascination with violence. Luka exhibited all three. By studying his digital footprint, investigators would later see the warning signs: obsessive posts, threats, and increasingly disturbing communications that hinted at an inevitable, violent climax. But no one could predict the full horror of what was about to happen. In May 2012, the intersection of Luka's obsession, planning, and opportunity would create a crime that the world could not ignore. A murder broadcast not just for the police to find, but for the entire digital audience he craved. From harassment to obsession, Luka Magnotta had prepared for a crime that would shock the world. Next, we examine the fateful encounter with Jun Lin, a life that would be tragically cut short, and a murder that would be captured, shared, and immortalized online. May 2012 would become the month that Canada and the world witnessed a crime designed for infamy. Luka Magnotta's obsession had escalated beyond fantasy, harassment, and planning. Now, it would culminate in a horrifying act: the murder of Jun Lin, a 33-year-old international student whose life would be cut short in the most brutal and premeditated way imaginable. But to understand what happened, we must examine the events leading up to that fateful encounter. Jun Lin, an engineering student from China, had recently moved to Montreal to pursue his studies and career. Described by friends as kind, hard-working, and cheerful, he had no reason to suspect the danger awaiting him. Luka Magnotta had been actively seeking a victim for months. He used online dating platforms to connect with men, scouting those he believed would satisfy his dark fantasies. His charm and carefully crafted persona made him appear trustworthy, even likable. Jun Lin, unaware of Luka's true nature, responded to his messages. A meeting was arranged, seemingly innocent, but it was a trap set with meticulous calculation. Luka invited Jun Lin to his Montreal apartment. What Jun Lin expected was a simple meeting. What he encountered was a meticulously prepared scene. Magnotta's apartment was arranged for control, with all tools and implements he would need for his gruesome plan. Witnesses would later describe his behavior in the hours before the murder as calm, methodical, almost eerily detached. Evidence from the investigation showed that Luka had studied methods for committing murder in ways that would maximize shock and attention. This was not a spontaneous act of violence. It was the execution of a twisted plan, honed and rehearsed in the shadows of his obsession. The murder of Jun Lin was horrific and deliberate. Magnotta's obsession with control and infamy guided every action. He attacked Jun Lin, restraining him with chilling efficiency. The act was brutal, leaving evidence of the premeditated nature of the crime. While details of the physical act are disturbing, the most shocking element was what came next. Luka recorded parts of the aftermath, intending to share the crime with the world. His motive was clear: infamy. He wanted to ensure that the murder was not only real but witnessed, discussed, and remembered. After the murder, Magnotta's actions escalated further. He sent photographs and videos of Jun Lin's body to various media outlets, including Canadian and international news organizations. The world, previously unaware of his existence, now began to learn of the crime, but only fragments. Authorities pieced together the evidence from the digital footprint he left behind. Emails, online posts, and forensic data all pointed to Luka, revealing a man who viewed murder as both an art and a means to achieve notoriety. News of the murder spread quickly across Canada and around the world. Media outlets highlighted the shocking nature of the crime, a murder carefully planned, executed, and documented by the killer himself. Public reaction was one of horror and disbelief. How could someone commit such an act, not just with cruelty, but with the clear intention of broadcasting it for notoriety? Social media exploded with speculation. Online forums debated Luka's motives, psychology, and the implications of a crime designed for infamy. His name became synonymous with the dark side of the internet, a reminder that digital platforms can amplify human depravity. Psychologists studying the case later described Luka Magnotta as exhibiting traits of narcissism, antisocial personality disorder, and obsession with notoriety. His meticulous planning, desire for attention, and ability to manipulate others online made him a textbook case of someone capable of extreme, premeditated violence. Experts note that Luka's fixation on fame overrode any moral constraints. The act itself was less about anger or personal grievance and more about ensuring his place in infamy. A twisted intersection of obsession, performance, and control. Jun Lin's death left families devastated, communities in shock, and authorities scrambling to understand the scope of Luka's actions. Investigators worked tirelessly to piece together digital evidence, examine the crime scene, and track Luka's movements after the murder. While Jun Lin's life was tragically cut short, the investigation into Luka Magnotta would reveal the chilling sophistication of a killer who treated murder as performance, ensuring that the world could not look away. The murder of Jun Lin shocked the world, but Luka Magnotta's actions were far from over. His next moves would take him across international borders, triggering one of the largest manhunts in modern history. Next, we follow the chase that spanned countries, media coverage, and the unrelenting pursuit of justice. After committing a murder that would horrify the world, Luka Magnotta vanished. What followed was a tense, dramatic, and international manhunt, a chase that would span continents, capture global attention, and ultimately end in the arrest of one of Canada's most infamous killers. But his escape was no accident. It was carefully calculated, as methodical as the crime he had just committed. Within hours of Jun Lin's disappearance, investigators were piecing together the grim puzzle. Evidence found in Magnotta's apartment, emails, videos, and personal effects, pointed directly to him. Yet when police arrived, Luka had already disappeared. Authorities realized that they were not just searching for a murder suspect. They were tracking a man who understood the power of the media, the internet, and public attention. Luka had calculated every step, ensuring that his story would reach the world, even as he fled. Luka's flight took him across international borders. He traveled to Europe, evading authorities while leaving subtle digital clues behind. Interpol issued a red notice, alerting law enforcement around the globe to the dangerous fugitive. During this time, Luka stayed in hotels, frequently changing his appearance and using cash to avoid traceable transactions. Surveillance footage captured fleeting glimpses of him at airports, bus stations, and hotels, each sighting intensifying the global hunt. The media played a crucial role in the manhunt. Every new development was broadcast internationally. Missing person alerts, witness reports, and speculation about his whereabouts. Social media amplified every rumor, every sighting, creating a global sense of urgency and fear. For Luka, this attention was part of the plan. The more the world watched, the more notoriety he gained. The manhunt itself became a spectacle, a chilling testament to his obsession with infamy. On June 4, 2012, almost a month after the murder, Luka Magnotta was captured in Berlin, Germany. Authorities had tracked him through hotel registrations, surveillance cameras, and tips from citizens. He was arrested without incident, wearing casual clothing, calm, and seemingly unbothered, a stark contrast to the chaos he had left behind. During his arrest, Luka displayed behavior that fascinated psychologists. Detached, almost theatrical, as if the world was observing a performance he had staged. While police took him into custody, the chilling reality remained. The murder of Jun Lin was real, and Luka had meticulously orchestrated his flight to maximize attention and evade justice. Psychologists later analyzed Luka's actions during his escape. They noted traits of narcissism, grandiosity, and a remarkable ability to manipulate both people and systems to his advantage. He was strategic, not impulsive, cunning, not reckless. Every move during his flight reinforced the narrative of a man obsessed with notoriety, willing to risk international pursuit to cement his place in infamy. Once arrested, Luka Magnotta was extradited back to Canada to face trial. Authorities transported him under tight security, fully aware that this man's story had captivated millions. The world would watch not just his capture, but the legal proceedings that followed, a trial that would expose the depths of his obsession and the full scope of his crimes. The manhunt was over, but the story was far from finished. The trial would reveal the shocking scale of Luka Magnotta's crimes, the psychological darkness behind his actions, and the unsettling truth about a killer who wanted nothing more than to be remembered. Next, we explore the trial and the evidence that shook Canada and the world. The world had watched Luka Magnotta evade justice, but the real drama was about to unfold in the courtroom. Canada's legal system would bear witness to one of the most shocking trials in modern history, a case that combined murder, mutilation, harassment, and a chilling obsession with fame. Every detail would be examined, every act scrutinized, as the nation waited to see justice served. The trial began in 2014 in Montreal. Luka Magnotta entered the courtroom with an air of composure that unnerved observers. Prosecutors described him as methodical and narcissistic, a man who committed murder not out of anger, but as a calculated step toward notoriety. The case was complex. It involved physical evidence, digital evidence, international communications, and graphic imagery. The prosecution needed to demonstrate not only the act of murder, but the premeditation, the planning, and the obsession with public attention that drove Magnotta to commit such an unthinkable crime. Digital evidence played a central role. Emails, online postings, and videos were presented, showing Magnotta's harassment campaigns, threats, and attempts to lure victims. Investigators meticulously traced his online activity, revealing a disturbing pattern. The killer had obsessed over recognition, the attention his acts might garner, and the digital footprint he would leave behind. Evidence included communications sent to media outlets and anonymous posts online, all demonstrating a preoccupation with fame and a disturbing lack of empathy for human life. Investigators also presented detailed physical evidence. Items from Luka's apartment, the murder scene, and even traces left behind in his mailings to political parties were cataloged. Forensic experts explained the meticulous nature of the crime, emphasizing how every action was deliberate, premeditated, and carefully executed. The courtroom watched as evidence was displayed. Maps, photographs, and diagrams that revealed a pattern of planning and intent. The prosecution argued that Magnotta's desire for infamy drove him to commit acts of extreme cruelty, and the evidence strongly supported this conclusion. Psychologists and psychiatrists were called to testify, offering chilling insights into Luka Magnotta's mind. They described him as having traits of narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial behavior, with an obsession for attention and fame that overrode empathy. Experts explained that Magnotta's calm demeanor, even during the murder and subsequent flight, was consistent with someone who viewed life and death as components of a performance, a terrifying reminder of how obsession and narcissism can escalate into violence. The trial captivated media outlets and the public alike. News networks provided daily updates, while online communities debated Luka's motives and the morality of public fascination with his crimes. Some criticized the attention he received, while others were fascinated by the psychology behind his actions. Magnotta, seemingly aware of the spectacle, occasionally displayed a calm, almost performative presence in the courtroom, reinforcing his desire to be remembered, to be notorious. The trial became as much about his persona as the murder itself, a dark interplay between justice and infamy. After weeks of testimony and presentations, the jury delivered its verdict, guilty on all counts. Luka Magnotta had murdered Jun Lin, engaged in mutilation, and committed acts of harassment and mailing body parts, all with full premeditation. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, with no possibility of parole for 25 years. The courtroom erupted in emotion, relief, disbelief, and grief for Jun Lin and his family. Justice had been served, but the case left a lasting imprint on Canada and the world, illustrating the terrifying consequences of obsession, narcissism, and digital notoriety. The trial revealed the full scope of Luka Magnotta's crimes, but questions remained. What drives a person to commit murder for fame? How could obsession escalate to such extremes? In the next chapter, we analyze the psychological profile of Luka Magnotta, uncovering the disturbing factors that made him capable of such horrific acts. What drives a person to commit murder not out of rage, but for attention? What compels someone to meticulously plan, document, and broadcast a killing, craving notoriety above all else? To understand Luka Magnotta, we must look beyond the crime itself and into the mind of a man whose obsession with fame overshadowed morality, empathy, and basic human decency. Psychologists describe Luka Magnotta as exhibiting clear signs of narcissistic personality disorder. Narcissists are characterized by a grandiose sense of self-importance, a need for admiration, and a lack of empathy. Magnotta's behaviors fit this profile. He sought to be noticed, remembered, and feared. His acts were not impulsive. They were carefully calculated to maximize attention and shock value. From his early online presence to the meticulous planning of Jun Lin's murder, Luka's obsession with fame was evident. He meticulously documented his activities, tracked reactions, and even taunted authorities and the public through digital messages. His need for infamy was so strong that it outweighed any concern for consequences or human life. Beyond narcissism, experts identified psychopathic tendencies in Luka's behavior: a lack of remorse, superficial charm, manipulativeness, and calculated risk-taking. His interactions with Jun Lin and other individuals demonstrated a chilling ability to manipulate trust. He could present himself as charming, kind, or attractive while hiding a predatory intent beneath the surface. Psychopathy, combined with narcissism, created a dangerous cocktail. Magnotta was not driven by impulse alone. He exhibited cold calculation, a strategic mind, and a desire for power over his victims. Each step, from online interactions to planning the murder and escaping Canada, revealed a person motivated by the thrill of attention, control, and recognition. Magnotta's obsession with fame was fueled by the media. He studied previous high-profile cases, noting how killers were remembered and discussed globally. This obsession informed his strategy. The murder of Jun Lin, the videos sent to media outlets, and the international flight afterward were all designed to keep the world watching. His desire was not just to kill. It was to control the narrative, manipulate public perception, and cement his place in infamy. Psychologists later emphasized that this combination of media obsession and narcissism is rare, but extremely dangerous when paired with a capacity for violence. For Luka Magnotta, fantasy and reality intertwined dangerously. The line between online persona and real-world action blurred as he meticulously rehearsed the steps of his crime. His obsession with being remembered, being feared, and being infamous drove him to enact fantasies that others could only imagine. This fusion of fantasy and reality is a key factor in understanding why his actions escalated so dramatically. The digital world he inhabited allowed him to plan, rehearse, and perform his crimes, making him both unpredictable and highly dangerous. So why did Luka Magnotta kill Jun Lin? Experts conclude that the murder was driven by three intertwined motives: the desire for infamy, the thrill of control, and a narcissistic need for attention. It was not revenge. It was not spontaneous anger. It was a crime designed as a performance, with the world as his audience. His actions after the murder, sending videos to media outlets, fleeing internationally, and engaging with law enforcement, all reinforced the same message. He wanted to be seen, remembered, and talked about. Magnotta's psychology offers a rare, chilling case study into the dark side of obsession and media-driven notoriety. Understanding Magnotta's psychology is crucial, not to excuse his actions, but to comprehend how obsession, narcissism, and the pursuit of fame can escalate to unimaginable violence. His case reminds us that modern crimes are increasingly shaped by media, the internet, and the desire for attention, and that warning signs, if ignored, can have catastrophic consequences. As investigators, psychologists, and the public studied Luka Magnotta, the picture became clear. This was not a crime of passion, but of calculation, not of impulse, but of obsession. A man who killed not because he had to, but because he wanted to be remembered. Luka Magnotta's psychological profile sheds light on the dark motives behind the crime, but his story does not end there. The aftermath, the societal reaction, the lessons learned, and the chilling legacy of his actions continues to resonate. In the next chapter, we explore the impact of his crimes and how the world responded to one of Canada's most infamous killers. With the trial concluded and Luka Magnotta behind bars, the world began to grapple with the aftermath of a crime designed for attention. Jun Lin's tragic death left families and communities devastated, while Magnotta's actions forced society to confront uncomfortable truths about obsession, fame, and the dark intersections of the internet and violence. For Jun Lin's family, the loss was unimaginable. A young man, full of promise and ambition, had his life stolen in the most horrific way. Friends and loved ones organized vigils, memorials, and tributes, striving to remember Jun Lin not as a victim, but as a bright and cherished individual whose life was tragically cut short. Communities in Montreal and abroad were shaken. The random nature of the crime, combined with the calculated cruelty of the killer, left people feeling both sorrow and fear. How could someone so charming, so ordinary in appearance, harbor such a monstrous obsession? The media played a dual role in Magnotta's legacy. On one hand, news outlets ensured the public understood the gravity of the crime. On the other, the coverage amplified the notoriety he sought. Social media debates raged, with discussions ranging from psychological analysis to ethical questions about reporting such crimes. Some critics argued that extensive coverage risked glorifying the killer, potentially inspiring others. Psychologists warned about the dangers of obsession with online fame and the influence of media attention in modern crime. The case became a touchstone in debates over media ethics and public fascination with extreme violence. Luka Magnotta's crimes offer several crucial lessons. First, the warning signs of obsession and narcissism must be taken seriously. Luka displayed escalating behavior over years, but his digital persona masked the growing danger he posed. Second, the intersection of the internet and violence cannot be underestimated. Luka's ability to plan, document, and distribute content digitally amplified the impact of his crimes. Modern society must recognize that the online world can serve as both a stage and a weapon for those seeking infamy. For psychologists, criminologists, and law enforcement, Luka Magnotta became a case study in the dangerous convergence of narcissism, obsession, and media influence. His meticulous planning, calm demeanor, and media manipulation offered insight into how some individuals escalate from fantasy to murder and how notoriety can serve as a motivating force. His case is now frequently studied in courses on criminal psychology, digital crimes, and media ethics. A dark reminder that fame can sometimes be the ultimate reward for the most horrific acts. Luka Magnotta was sentenced to life imprisonment with no possibility of parole for 25 years. Behind bars, he remains a figure of notoriety, studied by psychologists and law enforcement alike. But for society, the story is a stark warning. Obsession unchecked, coupled with the allure of fame, can have devastating consequences. Though incarcerated, the ripple effects of his crimes continue to be felt in the grief of Jun Lin's family, the shock of the public, and the ethical debates over media coverage of violent crimes. Luka Magnotta's story forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about modern society. How does the internet shape behavior? How does fame influence morality? And how do we, as a global community, respond to individuals who commit heinous acts for attention? This case is a chilling reminder that evil can hide behind charm, digital personas, and public performance. While justice was served, the implications of Luka's actions linger. A cautionary tale for the age of social media, instant fame, and global visibility. Luka Magnotta's story forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about modern society. How does the internet shape behavior? How does fame influence morality? And how do we, as a global community, respond to individuals who commit heinous acts for attention? This case is a chilling reminder that evil can hide behind charm, digital personas, and public performance. While justice was served, the implications of Luka's actions linger. A cautionary tale for the age of social media, instant fame, and global visibility. Luka Magnotta wanted to be remembered. He succeeded, but for all the wrong reasons. The murder of Jun Lin remains one of the most chilling examples of obsession, narcissism, and the dangerous power of fame. In a world where attention can become the ultimate reward, the story of Luka Magnotta serves as a grim reminder. Some crimes are not only committed in reality, but designed to be witnessed, and the consequences, both human and societal, are lasting. The story of Luka Magnotta is complete, a tale of obsession, cruelty, and the dark side of digital fame. But the lessons remain. Vigilance, awareness, and understanding human psychology are key to preventing tragedies like this in the future. Kindly subscribe and watch more of my videos.